Every year, Americans celebrate Memorial Day and Veterans Day with parades, ceremonies, and expressions of gratitude for those who served in the military. But one veteran's perspective offers a powerful reminder that honoring their sacrifice goes beyond those two holidays. It's about making an ongoing commitment to support and understand what they went through 365 days a year. Welcome to New Ham Basics. I'm your host, Greg, KD9ZRO. Wanted to do something a little different today. As a service member myself, prior service member, I technically don't qualify as a veteran. If you talk to the VA, I don't qualify as a veteran. You talk to any civilian, I do. So it's a matter of opinion, but in legal terms, I am not a veteran. But I did serve, and Memorial Day and Veterans Day and all the other special holidays dedicated to my fellow service members and veterans, I just never feel like they're being honored properly. Yeah, it's great to have a picnic and take our family members that are veterans out for a nice day with the entire family and that kind of thing, but that's not what it's about. The information I'm about to share with you is written from the perspective of the veteran. And the quotes are not from any specific veteran. The quotes are based on your average veteran. So, although this is not going to be a ham-related video, I feel it's an important video to honor our veterans properly. So, through this video, we're going to learn, based on the average veteran, what the proper way is to honor them, especially on those holidays, but every day. And it starts out with a quote from said average American veteran. It says, as a veteran who spent several years deployed in combat zones in Afghanistan and Iraq, I have a simple request for my fellow Americans. Honor our service, not just on major holidays, but year-round through understanding and tangible support. This is what the average veteran would say. We miss birthdays, anniversaries, and precious family moments. We endure harsh conditions, face enemy fire, and watch brothers and sisters in arms make the ultimate sacrifice. That's a powerful statement right there. A lot of times we forget that. That's one thing we need to remember. That right there is a powerful statement. What they go through that we often forget. We tend to want to say thank you for your service and think that's honoring them, and we don't take into account what their service actually meant, not only for us but to them. So let's keep that in mind. So while Memorial Day and Veterans Day are incredibly important, solemn occasions to pay tribute to fallen heroes and thank those who served, the veteran argues that their sacrifices extend far beyond those two dates on the calendar. And they do. They truly do. As a ex-service member myself, it is my firm belief, and every veteran and ex-service member that I've talked to, it is also their firm belief, that our oath that we took to our nation when we made that commitment never expires. There are actually dozens of minor military holidays and observances throughout the year that recognize different aspects of service. And the average veteran would say, I'd love to see more civilians not just recognize, but actively participate in observing, these special days in meaningful ways. And then there's some examples of ways we can do this. For one, on March 13th, many of us, I didn't even know, so many of us don't know. March 13th is Canine Veterans Day, and we can honor them for their invaluable service of working military dogs and their handlers with charity events, care packages, or attending a ceremony. Um, April 15th. Yeah, we think tax time. April 15th is Gold Star Spouses Day. The day we should spend time volunteering or donating to organizations that support the families of our fallen brothers and sisters. That's the thing that we tend to forget. Another thing we tend to forget. We want to honor the veteran themselves, male or female. We want to honor the veteran themselves. Well, their spouse and their families, they're veterans too. They went through that conflict. They went through that time of service at the same time that the veteran did, in a different way, but they went through that time of service at the same time they did. While that veteran was away from their family, the family was missing that part of their family. So it's not a one-way sacrifice. We often think of, when we're honoring our veterans and military service people, we often think of just the enlisted person. And it's not a one-way sacrifice. When they choose to make the sacrifice, their family makes the sacrifice with them. So we should not only honor the veteran or the service person, but their family as well, especially their spouse, but their family as well. So really take a moment on Memorial Day, beyond just the cookouts. Attend a ceremony if there's one around. Place flags at a national cemetery if you're close, or any cemetery that you know. You can go to just about any cemetery and ask them for a list of veterans because you want to place flags, and most of them will give it to you. Or find other ways to pause and reflect on the true meaning of the holiday. And more than anything, the average veteran would stress that one of the most powerful ways civilians can honor their service is simply through listening to their stories year-round, not just on designated holidays. So the average veteran would say, ask about our experiences with an open mind and ear. What was most unexpected? What was the most unexpected challenge of being deployed? How did we get through the tough times? What's the funniest memory with our battle buddies? Just giving ideas of how we could spark that conversation. Says listening to understand, not just to respond, can help bridge the civil to military divide. The average veteran goes on. Our stories are nuanced, complex, and don't fit into the political narratives you often see, which is true. A lot of the stories that they have, if you take the time to gain an understanding through their stories, there are a lot of things that the general public just does not know about. And it's not that the general public's not allowed to know, they're just not talked about. And so you give the veteran that chance to talk about those things. Excuse me. And one thing we need to consider as military service people and veterans, we're part of a national brotherhood. And it steps down from national to branch to company to platoon to squad. I mean, that brotherhood steps down. And many of our veterans, they lost a lot of brothers and sisters in a conflict. And so that camaraderie that they had with those brothers and sisters is gone. And us asking them to share with us and teach us helps give them a little bit of a sense of that camaraderie and brotherhood back. Let's see. Okay. Veteran also would emphasize that support for veterans and troops goes beyond just financial contributions to community charities. Although those are highly impactful and needed for resources like transition services, mental health care, housing assistance, and more. But support goes beyond just money. Hire veterans. We have incredible leadership and technical skills, forged under immense pressure. Advocate for improved VA services and benefits. Volunteer your time and talents in meaningful ways, the average veteran would say. So there's a lot more to honoring veterans than just giving them a day, maybe giving them a special church service the Sunday before, and taking them out on a picnic to visit with the family. You really want to honor the veterans in your life, and the veterans around you, and the veterans in their lives, especially you young people. Educate yourself. Find out what conflicts that those veterans were a part of, and educate yourself on those conflicts. Gain an understanding of those conflicts, and allow the veteran to teach you about those conflicts. Ask them questions and things like that, so that when you ask them to share their stories, you have an understanding. Maybe academic understanding, but you have some understanding of where these stories are coming from, beyond just randomly asking them to tell you a story. I mean, a lot of veterans, they want to tell those stories, but they don't feel like you would understand, or they don't feel comfortable telling those stories to someone that doesn't have a background in combat. So they tend to wait until they're in groups with other veterans to tell their stories, and even the hard stories. Being able to share those stories with someone brings them a sense of joy and a sense of pride. And so, if you seek out an understanding of the conflicts the veterans around you went through, and you come to them with a basic knowledge, and you can be actively participate in that conversation instead of just being a listening post, it's going to mean a lot to them. It means a lot to them to share their stories with you, and it's going to mean a lot more if you can participate in that conversation. You may not have been through a conflict. Obviously, I'm speaking to you youngsters. You're too young to have been through that conflict. I have a very limited knowledge. I mean, yeah, I was taught about conflict in school, but come on now. Who pays attention in school? I mean, honestly. And I've got the little bit of time that I served, but I don't have a deep understanding. I mean, to be honest with you, I went through basic training. I was a reservist, so I had my monthly drills, and we did a 2-week training once a year. And I've got a few stories based on that, but my unit was actually disbanded. We were going to be sent over to Iraq, kicking indoors, and then they talked about retraining us as MPs and deploying us, and ultimately they disbanded us. And that would have, honestly, that would have been deadly to a lot of us. And the reason it would have been deadly to a lot of us is we were a cannon unit. I was on a 155 howitzer. We drove Humvees, deuces and a halves, 5 tons, and we shot 155 millimeter guns from over a mile away from the conflict. Sending us directly into the hot zone would have been deadly to a lot of us. So, I can relate to a lot of stories in that sense, but I have no experience. So even I'm at a loss sometimes talking to our veterans, but I can relate to them in knowing what I potentially could have gone through. And the average American veteran would want civilians to recognize and celebrate their incredible strength and resilience. And we would say, at the end of the day, we don't want pity. We're incredibly resilient, taking pride in our ability to overcome adversity. Celebrate that strength, that fighting spirit that does not quit. And then he says, cheer us on as we chase new challenges, like starting businesses, getting education, or taking on elite athletic competitions. Our drive and determination can inspire others. So think about these, as we're going through this, think about these things that the average American would say, American veteran would say, when you're considering how you should honor them, not only on those special holidays, but especially on those special holidays. How you could honor them every day. Because see, in the veterans' eyes, while holiday celebrations and discounts are appreciated, what matters most is for civilians to make an effort to truly understand their experiences and sacrifices throughout the year. Getting back to what I said about especially you youngsters, if you don't know anything about the conflict that veteran went through, educate yourself. Maybe even ask that veteran to help educate you so that they know that you have an understanding, although it's academic, you have an understanding, and and they can tell their stories to you. So the average American veteran would say, while you don't have to agree with every military operation, please respect the sacrifices we made to serve our country. We put our lives on the line, some of us coming home with multiple wounds, others with invisible ones like PTSD and mortal injury. And I'll add, some of them didn't come home. Some of them did make the ultimate sacrifice, and they didn't do it for whatever political reason of the conflict that you don't agree with. They did it for you. Just like I'm a Christian Baptist, and I believe in the sacrifice of Jesus. Whether you believe that or not is up to you. But what you can confidently believe is those veterans that went overseas and they fought in a conflict, no matter what the political reason was, no matter whether you agree with it or not, they didn't do it for that reason. They did it for you. So the American veteran goes on to say, with greater understanding comes deeper respect, gratitude, and support as we transition to civilian life. That's the most meaningful way the nation can honor our service, not just on Memorial Day or Veterans Day, but every day. That's the key. We can honor them. We can meet a veteran on the street, have a conversation with them. Maybe they tell us a story, maybe they don't. Maybe they just casually mention that they were in the service, and we thank them for their service. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But to be perfectly honest with you, that has become as commonplace as a young teenager or a pre-teenager telling another young teenager or pre-teenager that they have a little bit of feelings for, that they love them. Okay, it may mean something to them in the moment, but it really ultimately means nothing. Very rarely does that relationship last beyond a fleeting moment. And us meeting a veteran out on the street and saying and listening to a story, or just talking to them for a little while and finding out that they're veterans and saying, thank you for your service, that's a fleeting moment. So, although it's nice to hear, it's commonplace. I'm not saying that it means nothing to us, but it's commonplace. It's become so commonplace that it's just a fleeting moment. We need to follow the examples given here and educate ourselves and have deep, meaningful conversations with these veterans, even if it truly is a fleeting moment, because that honors them more than a simple handshake and thank you for your service. Like I said, I'm not saying it's meaningless, but it means less. So, from the veteran's perspective, let me restate that. I said that wrong. The veteran's perspective serves as a powerful reminder that honoring those who served is not just a holiday tradition, but an ongoing commitment to support them through understanding, action, respect for their resilience, and appreciation for their sacrifices all year long. And I want to add on, we need to do the same for their spouses and their families. Because we can do these things to honor the veteran, and that's going to mean a lot more, like I said, than a simple handshake and thank you for your service. Anybody can thank you for your service and move on about their day. But if we're honoring them properly, it means more. And then when we turn around and we extend that honor to their family, then we're fully honoring that veteran, because we're not only honoring their sacrifice, we're honoring the sacrifice their family made in order to let them make that sacrifice. And I don't want this to be a downer. I just want this to be a lesson in what these special holidays that we observe as a day off of work and a chance to have a picnic or go out and do something special, what they're truly intended to mean. I hope that this short little presentation helped you gain a little bit of understanding that's been lost throughout the years of what these special holidays were intended to mean and how we were intended to honor them. There's nothing wrong with the way we do it now. We just tend to forget to include the actual meaning of the holidays. We tend to forget to include the fact that, yes, these are one-day holidays here and there sparkled throughout the year that are observed as special days for our veterans, but every day that they came back to American soil after being overseas, every day that they came back to American soil is an opportunity for us to honor them and honor them properly. And I hope that this little presentation helped you understand that and how that should be done. It's KD9ZRO saying 7-3 and clear until next time.